Welcome to Giant Ability TV.
Our mouth is a major determining factor of how our lives turn out to be. And this is because life and death is in the power of the tongue. A closed mouth is a closed destiny, and every mouth that remains closed will be the cause of why the stomach suffers hunger. Faith is an act and by extension a work, and that alludes to the saying or fact that faith without work is dead. Permit me to humbly submit that Nigerians have been adjudged to be the happiest people in the world. Take cognizance, however, that happiness is inferior to joy, and to this end, one can be happy and not be joyful. Looking carefully into the lives of Nigerians, one easily discovers that the happiness that characterizes the behavior of Nigerians is psychological and is a product of mental disorder. This is so because happiness is expected to be the expression of joy, but where people are happy but not joyful, that only shows that people live a superficial life that lacks profundity, making their lives fitting for description as a beautiful plant growing over a period of time but without a firm and strong roots in the ground. Nigerians easily adapt to situations, especially the hard and difficult ones. It is not out of place to say that the unprecedented hunger crisis that pervades the entire country was made possible by the choice made by Nigerians to smile while suffering and to keep their mouths closed. No matter how religious, righteous, or faithful a man is, it will take the use of his mouth to bring into reality his dreams, no matter how big or small they may be. Nigerians are good at what can be described as a runner's complacency. This accounts for why wicked leaders easily get away with their atrocious acts against Nigerians, and a problem that urgently needs to be addressed with the present administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. One does not need a seer to see for Nigerians and to say without mincing words that the journey of nation building that is embarked upon and being led by this current administration is a journey in the wrong direction, leading to a wrong destination. Everything about the present government is shrouded in secrecy, lacking in visibility and transparency. This began with the foundation of perjury and deceit, as can be seen in how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) while running for the office of the president. A forged diploma purportedly received from the Chicago State University, a forged NYSC certificate, as well as the failure on his part to tell Nigerians the primary and the secondary schools he attended. Even the election that brought this president into office was fraudulent and shambolic. This is to paint a picture of a faulty foundation on which the building of his administration was laid. For if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do?
My point of view is from assessing the government in terms of what the Constitution expects of a government. Because when you are assessing the performance of any person, you need to use as objective a metric as possible. And nothing can be more consensual than the Constitution by which the president was sworn to office. And that Constitution expects the government to be for the good order and welfare of the country. And I think it is not debatable, even for those who are inside the government, that the Tinubu administration cannot say that it has answered to the constitutional requirement of taking care of the people, of governing the land in a way that is for the benefit of the people, and ensuring that we have peace. We don't have peace, we don't have justice, we don't have development, we don't have economic relief. Rather, we have additional problems brought upon the people by the ideological decisions made by the APC government, right from President Buhari's time up to President Tinubu's time. So we have 9.5 years of wrong-headed policies by the APC, particularly the Tinubu's presidency as a continuation of the APC has even worsened matters in many areas. It doesn't mean that they don't mean well, it's just that the result hasn't shown at all.
For instance, take the issue of fuel subsidy that the president said had gone on the day of his swearing-in on May 29, 2023, but which in reality is still going on the ground, with new names given to it as shortfall or unrecovered payment by the NNPC Limited, which is the sole importer of the PMS products, petrol, into the country. Also, think of the high level of fraud going on within the NNPC under the leadership of his group managing director, Mr. Mele Kyari. This is a man who always speaks from the two sides of his mouth and who plays on the intelligence of Nigerians with ease and impunity. We keep hearing about the oil theft and the reason why the NNPC has not broken even, let alone contributing its quota into the Federation account. Don't forget also that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu inherited this man and the NNPC problems from the former President Muhammadu Buhari, who, as a president, was also the Minister of Petroleum Resources. President Tinubu chose to continue in the same trajectory, making himself the Minister of Petroleum Resources, where the greatest fraudulent activities are going on. And the question now remains, is how does this organization and the president, who is the minister overseeing the fraudulent activities, reform themselves? There have been long queues in every part of the nation's capital, Abuja, and other parts of the country since after the NNPC declared that it is owing $6 billion in debt to the suppliers of PMS petrol, and the next thing that happened was the increase in the pump price of petrol from 675 naira, which already had been a source of concern and the reason why life has been hard and unbearable for Nigerians, to a new pump price of between 979 naira and 1,200 naira respectively. The hunger and poverty that Nigerians are subjected to today, permit me to say, are self-inflicted, where people cannot hold their government accountable or speak truth to power even when the opportunity is before them. Who then do you blame for their calamities? Everything about Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government is fraudulent, making Nigeria to cease from being the giant of Africa to being the poverty and corruption capital of the world. The security agencies are instrumental to the problems that Nigerians are facing, themselves being complicit. The security agent cannot be helping the government in oppressing and subjugating Nigerians and still expect the people to share intelligence with them and how to win the war against insurgency and banditry. You cannot be the enemy of the people and expect the people to be your friend. It is easier for the security agencies to clamp down on protesters and even kill them with impunity than for them to go after the terrorists and bandits who is deceiving who.
It's important to note that, ironically, something funny is going on in our nation. Ours is a nation where bandits are killing and abducting citizens all over the place, and nobody is filing any terrorism charge against them. It's an irony of some sort. Almost all across the country, filling stations have become almost like a carnival and behavioral activities. You would think that Davido, Burna Boy, and Wizkid combined are performing at the filling stations, and this has been going on for months now. Long queues, even outside, just at the junction there, Transcorp Hilton, there's massive traffic, filling stations. For me, I think that even the military were careful to arrest protesters and charge them for treasonable felony. But the Tinubu government is not wise enough, or I'll say they are recklessly shameless to have gone this route. But I'm not surprised. You know, the best critics make the worst leaders. Check all around Africa. Museveni was a former critic. Today he's a complete tyrant. You know, and look at the guy in Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. He opposed attempt by Laurent Gbagbo to do a third term. Now he has amended the constitution and he's on a third term. So there's nothing that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his men and his cohorts who are desperate to, you know, silence dissent, you know, attack the media. You can see they arresting journalists and also protesters and arraigning them with terrorism and all that. So there's nothing they are doing that is new or unique. You know, they are just trying to outdo their fellow tyrants all across the continent. You know, so for us, we are surprised and shocked by the magnitude of the charge, but we are not dismayed in any way because we knew that a day like this was going to come from the body language of the government.
Right. If truly the members of the armed forces of Nigeria are out to perform the assignment stipulated by the Constitution, they would not be aiding and abetting any government that has failed in its responsibility to perform in its primary assignment as prescribed by the Constitution, which is the protection of lives and property of Nigerians, as well as prioritizing their welfare. A number of participants in the End Bad Governance protest, at least 10 of them, 9 males and 1 female, have been arraigned before the court of the land with fictitious charges of offenses such as treason and terrorism manufactured against them, which cannot be substantiated. This was done just to deter others who might want to protest against bad governance, especially the ones slated for October 1st, 2024. You may wish to know also that journalists are not spared in the acts of illegality being perpetrated against Nigerians by the Tinubu administration.
It is reported that more than 100 journalists have been kidnapped, tortured, intimidated, and manhandled by the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from May 29, 2023 to date.
This action has to backfire, but I pity the media houses in Nigeria, especially the mainstream media houses, whose survival depends on advertisement from the government of the day, both at the federal and at the subnational levels. It is also a sad reality to note that most of the civil society organizations who are supposed to be the watchdog of the masses have been put in the pocket of the government, either by inducement or cohesion. Needless we talk about the other arms of government, which include the legislature and the judiciary.
Members in these institutions are not different from toothless bulldogs who can only bark but cannot bite, having been pocketed by the executive and having their independence sold for a morsel of bread to the executive.
Every facet of the Nigerian society has been corrupted and made to retrogress, and no positive change is in view. The unfortunate thing is that as Nigeria as a country grapples with the problems of insecurity, poverty, and stagnation, those who are entrusted with the leadership of the country rather than preferring workable solutions to the problems are just busy stealing and amassing to themselves the wealth of the country. It is instructive how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu openly applauded his predecessor, the former President Muhammadu Buhari, for not interfering in his administration, unlike how he, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was the national leader of the All Progressives Congress Party (APC) during the time of Buhari, and who happened to be the one who recommended ministers who occupied important key positions in President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, including the Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo. This revelation lends credence to why Bola Ahmed Tinubu cannot be absolved from the mess that the former President Muhammadu Buhari plunged Nigeria into, including the problems of oil theft, terrorism, banditry, corruption, with a climax as bankrupting the country. Why the military has moved its major command to Sokoto State as a reactionary measure and not proactive against the escalation of banditry activities in the region, with its most recent as the murder of the Emir of Gobir, Alhaji Isa Muhammad Bawa, a first-class traditional leader, is to say the least spurious and laughable. It would have made more sense if the military had deemed it fit to swing into action by moving its command to Sokoto just as soon as the Emir was kidnapped by bandits and paraded on social media for several weeks before he was murdered, as well as the attendant kidnap of more than 150 persons in the same emirate and the rustling of more than 1,000 cows by bandits just a week after the Emir was murdered. This has been the pattern employed by the security agents in their war against terrorism and banditry and which fits in for description as a chase of the wild goose. The list of the misfortunes that have befallen this country since President Bola Ahmed captured the state of Nigeria on February 25, 2023, through the most fraudulent election in the history of the country and the continuation of the reign of terror which the former President Buhari brought on Nigerians cannot be exhausted, but can only be described as the saddest episode in the history of Nigeria. It is unfortunate that some Yorubas, who are the kinsmen of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, take pride in what is currently going on, all in the name of ethnic sentiment. And this group of people are not different from the man who is in the saddle but who lacks legitimacy and integrity, and a paradox of what morality is, but a reprobate in every sense of it. I take an exception to being a supporter of illegality, mediocrity, and corruption in whatever shades and forms that it may present itself in leadership. The problem of insecurity as made manifest in Boko Haram insurgency and banditry still lingers and has continued to account for the loss of lives of innocent Nigerians. The important question that still awaits answers from Nigerians is why this problem is peculiar to the northern part of the country, as well as why on earth a group of people from the same ethnic class can be enemies of themselves. Experts in security, especially the retired Commodore Kunle Olawunmi, has indicated that the sponsors of Boko Haram and bandits should be the target, who the security agents should go for if truly there is a good intention to solve the problem of insecurity in Nigeria.
Allah adirtamu, Allahu Akbar, Ragutan Nigeria, Allah adirtamu, Allahu Akbar. Allah adirtamu, Ragutan Nigeria, Ariyanku, Samun ka ƙaryanku. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allah ba mu nasara, Allah ada mu kansu. Allah ƙara, Allah Akbar. Annabi Muhammadu, Allahu Akbar, ayyuna sama. Kai, aya da mu yi da bidiyo mana a gane dai an ci nazara, an gode ma Allah. Muna godiya. Allah ubangiji ya kare. Ku tada mai wuta, ku sa mai wuta, ku sa mai wuta, ku sa mai wuta. A kwane shi. Annabi Muhammad, ku sa mai wuta. Kai, a sa mai wuta don Allah, a sa mai wuta. Hasbina Allah wa ni'mal wakeel. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Our problem is religion and socio-cultural. I mean, people will expect me to come here and start talking about kinetics, about operation and so on. I've been an operational commander all my life. I've commanded warships, I've commanded troops, I've commanded men outside Nigeria and so on. But I'm not going to come to your station to discuss kinetics. The problem is not kinetics. In 2017, 2016, I'm always a member of the Security and Intelligence Brief at the Defense Headquarters. I told them, General Lawrence Shakin then, that the challenge we have in this country cannot be solved the same way we solved the problem of Niger Delta. The Niger Delta problem was solved during Yar'Adua time, basically by me. And I told them that we can't use that same template for Boko Haram. I told General Lawrence Shakin to look at the center of gravity of the problem. We all came together. I was made a member Tahiru that just died was a member of that committee in 2016, 2017. And we came to a conclusion after several arguments. And the arguments were three. To identify the center of gravity of the problem, one group said it is the fighters, the Boko Haram fighters are the center of gravity, so we should go after them. Another group said the center of gravity of Boko Haram is Abubakar Shekau. So if we go after Abubakar Shekau, then the problem of Boko Haram will be solved. I took exception to the group. I said that is not the center of gravity of the problem of Boko Haram insurgency that we were having between that 2012 and 2017. And General Olawunmi asked me, Olawunmi, why are you giving problem? What is the problem? Give us the answer. And I told General Olawunmi that if I tell you the answer, you're not going to be able to solve the problem. He said, what is the problem? I said, the center of gravity of Boko Haram and insurgency in Nigeria are the sponsors of that program. It was beyond us. Because the job we need to do is kinetics. Fight, destroy places, resolve issues. Yeah. But we cannot resolve issue of sponsors of Boko Haram that were in Buhari's government, that we know them.
Surprisingly, the government during the administration of the former President Muhammadu Buhari and the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have turned deaf ears to these important suggestions and call. With this posture of the government, it is therefore evidently clear that the government itself cannot be absolved from the insecurity problems that Nigeria is faced with, and for what reasons only they can tell, for there can be no smoke without fire. On a final note, the task of changing a lifestyle is not in keeping silence and feeling indifferent, especially by choosing not to speak truth to power. We are therefore admonished to seize every opportunity presented before us to say something when we see something. For we have been given a mouth and wisdom that none of our adversaries can withstand or gainsay. If only we can put what we have to use. For failure to do so makes us useless and become a cheap prey to our adversaries. It is not enough for us to be called giant. It is more important that we see ourselves that way and act with that understanding. It is time to act.
Thank you for watching.